Hi, everyone. I'm Edwina from Click Ad Agency. Welcome to another episode of my podcast called The Marketing Advantage. And today I'm here with someone who really needs no introduction. If you've been with us since our Facebook group or if you follow us on Instagram, you already know John. But for those of you who don't know John, he is my mentor, my business partner. And I think after 4.5 years of working together, I would certainly consider him a friend. John is what we call a GOAT, right? He's a guru. He's been doing this, I would say, since Facebook monetized the platform. And from working with John, I've been able to step up my data game, data analysis game. And he's just the person that I go to for literally everything. I probably bother him way more than he would like me to, but that's besides the
Absolutely
point,
not.
right? Yeah, but I'm just like, sometimes when I think about it, I'm like, thank God that I met John. Because, as business owners, you try to find help, but not just any kind of help. Like, you want somebody who actually cares about what it is you're trying to accomplish and doesn't just see you as a means of making money. And with John, that's what I found. So I'm just eternally grateful. And with this episode, it's not an interview because obviously we're very familiar with one another. We talk all the time. But I wanted us to do a deep dive into what we called, it's in the Peacock course where we talk about the cautionary tale about a client that was actually John's client in Brazil that sold higher end diaper bags. And unfortunately, their story didn't end well. So I wanted us to take this opportunity to do a deep dive because I feel like it's such a tremendous opportunity to learn like what to do and what not to do. And maybe if they had taken different steps, maybe they would be in a different position now. So, John, since they were your client, I'll let you lay the groundwork. And just so you guys know, for the purposes of this video, we're going to talk about the company that we have to respect their privacy. So we're going to refer to them as company B. But I want to talk about within that context of telling their story, we want to talk about the Peacock strategy, how it applies to this story, the importance of data analysis, understanding your numbers, and then leveraging those numbers to make important business decisions. So go ahead, John, take it away. That was my introduction.
Okay, so it's always a pleasure to be here. Always a pleasure to talk to you. The case with this particular company is I'll try to be as short as possible on this quick introduction to the company. But they sold higher end diaper bags that did not look like diaper bags. That was the main idea behind the product. And they did really well
Yes.
because they had basically no competitors. Their product was very high end. The quality of the product was outstanding. They were manufactured pretty much just for them. They were handmade. Of course, that came at a premium price, but even in this premium price, they were able to maintain I'd say, pretty fair price. So it was not like
Hmm.
something that was considerably like double or three times the price of just a common diaper bag. And
Hmm.
the idea behind the brand specifically was that they were recent moms. So they really understood the market because the idea for the product came from something that they felt the need for. So they wanted
Hmm.
diaper bags that were not pink or that light blue. You probably know colors better than I do.
Yes,
They wanted
yes.
something that could be kind of neutral.
Hmm.
So they really understood the pain points of the target audience, which is always, that's the first tip that we give to anyone. If you understand in really in depth, understand the pain points, the wishes, the what your target audience really wants, because a lot of times what they think they want or they say they want
Hmm.
is not truly what they want. You have something great on your side. And they started selling those bags and they were really popular. People loved them. There was only one issue. They were tricky, to say the least, to manufacture because as they were handmade, they were reliant on only one supplier. And that supplier let them know from the very start that it was not very scalable unless they were really trying to go one step beyond and start making like huge orders because they took a
Okay.
lot of time to make. They were very strict with their quality. So if anything was apart from what was out of what they wanted, they would just send it back. They were very strict about that. They were very successful. People loved their products. And probably like after 1 year and a half working together or something like that, they decided to
Hmm.
kind of spread the strategy and to offer a different type of product, which was common called handbags, right? Like leather handbags,
Yeah.
like common. general bags. And the first product did really well. And the reason for that is that they already had a established audience that knew, liked, and trusted
Hmm.
them, trusted their products, trusted their quality, especially. And the audience was pretty much the same. Because recent moms who bought their products before, they were already in their audience, they already knew the brand. So they only had to sell something that was in addition or complementary to that one product. So the first handbag that we marketed worked really well because people who had the main audience who bought the first order that they made were mostly comprised of people who had already bought something from them. So it did really well. And with the success of this first launch, they were, of course, really happy about it. And there was only one issue, is that the mentality kind of started to switch. Back then, I learned that they truly, they've always wanted to have their own line of handbags, not only diaper bags. That was something that came to mind because it was a necessity that they spotted in the marketplace, but they always wanted to have their own line of their own brand of handbags. And
So wait, you just
I
said
don't want
that they actually always wanted to have their own line of handbags, but when it came to diaper bags, they saw a open sector of the market that was not being served, and so they decided strategically to provide diaper bags, but that was not what they were truly passionate about.
I learned that after I started. We had been working for quite some time. I don't know how much it was that they always wanted to have to sell that kind of product, or how much it
Hmm.
was that the first launch did really well. And
Okay.
there was one particular point that really weighed into this mindset shift, is that the handbags were considerably easier to manufacture. So they were considerably easy
Oh,
for them to get from their suppliers. The quality, the margin of error was way smaller than the diaper bags because there were less parts involved, there were less products involved, there were less different types of material involved. So they were considerably easier for them to get their hands on than the diaper bags. Back then, I would say that a red light started to shine like, okay, it worked really well. There's a product that you can 100% sell to people who already know and trust you. It was a great complementary product, if that makes sense.
mhm.
Because you could sell
Yeah.
something to a recent mom that was truly something that was unique to the marketplace. Not really unique, but it was differentiated on a positive note, of course, from everything that was in the
Hmm.
marketplace. And after they bought that, they knew the quality of the brand, they knew the standards of the brand, which were really high. And you could also sell then another product, which was a handbag. So the strategy at that point would be very clear. They started to sell really well, and their main supplier, their relationship started to have some issues because
Okay.
they were started to only work with bigger companies, and of course, bigger companies, they would make bigger orders. So instead, let's just say they could order 50 at a time. All of a sudden, they had to double that. So now they would only keep working with them if they ordered 100 at a time. When
Okay.
that happened,
Okay.
they had to decide if they were going to go ahead and make that leap of faith. It wasn't truly a leap of faith because they truly had the audience, the numbers supported that to sell those bags, or they could try to find another supplier. Back then, they did try to find other suppliers, but the quality was not the same. So they were not very
Okay.
comfortable of compromising the quality of the product because that was one of the main points that the brand was known for. So it didn't really work well. Like after 2 or 3 tries, they accepted that if we want to sell this particular product, we're going to have to be working with this provider. But when that time came, it was, I think the mentality had started to really shift. They really liked selling the common handbags. They were easier to produce. They were somewhat easier to sell, but it wasn't my job to let them know, okay, it's selling well. But
Hmm.
you're going from a market where you have a unique product, where you have a very niched audience and a very niche product, and you have an audience that loves the product, and you pretty much have no competitors. So you're going from that to the mass market. Because whenever you sell handbags, even if they're leather handbags, there's a lot of brands that sell handbags.
Yeah.
So
Now you're competing with Michael Kors, Louis, Gucci,
exactly.
Prada, TJ Maxx,
Yep.
like everybody.
Yep. A very important point in that, which the idea of price anchoring. So if I sell a newsletter, let's say a email newsletter or a PDF newsletter, there is a higher threshold when it comes to the price that I can sell that, because the price for newsletters, it's pretty volatile. It's pretty, you see maybe newsletters that start from free that go up. I mean, there's people that sell like financial newsletters for $1,000 a month. If I decided to sell, for example, newspapers, and I decided to sell a newspaper for $30, it's going to be
Mm-hmm.
tricky to sell that because the price is always going to be anchored to what people are already used to. So if people are already used to paying $2, $3, $5 for a newspaper, and all of a sudden I come in to try to sell them for $30, it's going to be trickier. When they're selling something that is somewhat unique, there is more flexibility on the price because your price is not going to be anchored to any other brand.
Exactly.
Or if it is, whenever you're selling to a very niched audience, you have a little bit more control, maybe is the word, for your pricing. You can work that out a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Whenever you're
You
selling
can kind
something
of
that
set the price. When you have a unique product, you set the price because
exactly,
nobody else is selling it. So there's no benchmark, I guess you could say.
and whenever you go into a market that's as old and as traditional and with as many established brands as handbags, all of a sudden
Mhm.
the anchoring becomes way trickier. Because let's say you're trying to sell some handbag for, again, just making up numbers, $500, and you're a new brand. Let's say for $500, they can buy a simple Gucci or a simple Louis Vuitton bag. Then there is always that question for the consumer. If I can buy a Louis Vuitton for that price, why would I buy it from this new brand, this brand that I don't know about? Because there's always that thing about you always buy the brand as well. So
Yeah.
there was that point. Unfortunately, back then they decided that they really wanted to double down on the handbags themselves. And to summarize a very long story, I just want to make something very clear. I have the utmost respect for the business owners. They were incredible people.
Yeah.
We eventually stopped working together because the numbers really started to go down. They really
Yeah.
had some issues with the supplier as well because the supplier minimum orders started to go up and up and up. And they truly
Mhm.
had to decide, we're either going to really triple, quadruple down on diaper bags or handbags. They had to be one or the other. It will not be
Mhm.
feasible to continue with both. Unfortunately, they decided that they really wanted to go after what they really wanted, what they liked more, which was the handbags.
Mhm.
Didn't work out the best way possible. In the end, we stopped working back then. That was years ago, of course. And my wife even had some bags from them because they were that, like, the quality was really top notch.
Okay.
And 6 months later, we checked their Instagram accounts. They had not been very active. Then 1 year later, pretty much the last post had been 8 months before and something like that. Unfortunately, we checked not long ago, me and Edwina, I think their last post was 2022, something like that, like
22.
over a year
Yeah.
ago.
It's
Yeah.
like 2 years ago.
So I would believe they just not went out of business, but at least they stopped promoting the brand. So it was an unfortunate decision. Of course, there's more than
Mhm.
just money and business involved. There was all the feel good, sentimental side of the product. But of course, we were analyzing only the corporate side of things in here. It was not a optimal decision, as I like to say. And yeah, up to this day,
Yes.
I'm yet to
So
see a brand sell the product that they sold before, which says a lot about it.
in Brazil. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's just to put context. That's definitely in Brazil because I know I have 3 young kids. So I probably would have fallen right into their target audience. That is a phenomenon that I saw happening maybe like 7, 8 years ago. And those diaper bags are like what they call the millennial mom diaper bags because people my generation and younger, like they don't want to wear the pink and blue, what is that? Like that nylon diaper bag. And so now
Yeah.
I even bought something like that for my best friend who had a baby in 2020. And the bag was, I think, $700. That's what she wanted. She put that on her list. And I was like, girl, you're going to get this and nothing else from me. So I'm very well aware. But yeah, like I was like, I could have gotten you a boatload of stuff from Target. But if you want this bag, I will get it for you. So I'm very well aware with that type of product. So there is some competition here. But what you were saying, that this company was located in Brazil, they didn't have any competition. So I wanted us to just dig a little bit deeper into the last point you said about it wasn't the optimal decision. And for context, this company, you can correct me if I'm wrong, they were doing like 95 to 110K a month in revenue,
Yeah.
right? And as far as the Peacock product is concerned, on the course, I talk about, I think the Peacock product has, in order to be considered a Peacock product, the product has to hit 5 points. And this product, the diaper bags, it hit four, everything, all four of them except one, right? Which is this issue with the supply, having a readily accessible supply of your product. And so now they say hindsight is 2020. So I know what I would have done in their position, which would have been something completely different. But from your perspective, since you work so intimately with them, what decision would you have made, like looking at the numbers? Because the numbers supported that people wanted to buy these bags, right? So I'm
Yep.
thinking, if I'm in their perspective, I would need to figure out, if I were them, I would have double, triple down, as you said, on that product. Because my whole thing is, if I have something that's selling already, like i.e. a Peacock product or a Hero product, like I interviewed someone last year or 2 years ago, and she said something that always sticks with me, which is, instead of trying to find new products to sell, I just try to find new ways to sell my best-selling product. And I feel like these brand owners could have done exactly that. You have a product, you're making $100,000 a month in revenue. Why not just sort out the supplier issue? Why not just work with the supplier to figure out, maybe it meant, like you said, like giving them taking the risk and giving them a very large deposit so that they could continue to manufacture for you, or even trying to find one or two other suppliers and showing them a prototype and say, hey, copy this for me and help us produce more of
Mhm.
these bags that this company in Brazil is doing. Like, I would have sorted out the supplier issue before completely ignoring the data and saying, well, that's a little bit complicated. So I'm going to go and try to create this whole new market for a whole new product and sell to my audience that is buying something from me that they can't buy from someone else. But I'm going to sell them something that they're probably buying from other people. What would have been the optimal decision in your mind that they should have done?
I'm an engineer, so I think I'm very biased. I always follow the numbers, and the
I
statistics,
know.
and the historical number background. It was not only the numbers in this case, or the
Okay.
numbers were a part of it, but also looking at the marketplace. I mean, it's pretty easy for you to go, even in the particular case of the Brazilian marketplace, to understand that there are thousands of brands that sell handbags. I would probably say there were maybe some brand trying to appeal to the same audience of people who wanted moms who wanted diaper bags that didn't clearly look like diaper bags. But there were very few. For the whole time that we
Mhm.
ran ads, we didn't see pretty much any of those.
Yeah. Even in
The
America, there's not a lot of companies that do that. I
yeah,
wouldn't say it's ubiquitous. Yeah. It's still very much
exactly.
a niche
So
product. Mhm.
whatever you look at the numbers support it. Like, of course, when we say it, the numbers specifically, like the ROAS, how much they're getting, like sales, cost, and profit margins, and so forth, they support that they could have kept on selling that. I don't know how tricky it was to work with the supplier or not, but there are definitely ways to make it work with the ways to make it work with the supplier.
Well, the supplier
I
was
think I have
willing, right? They just said, you just need to put down a bigger deposit.
theoretically the
Yeah.
risk was higher because they would have to make bigger orders. I mean, that's something that
Hmm.
we face a lot with our clients as well. Sometimes you have to
Hmm.
take that leap of faith. You have to be willing to take bigger risks. And the problem with postponing a decision like that is the market is relentless. So you can be the only one or one of the very few brands that are selling a product right now. Trust me, people are looking at your ads and they're looking at opportunities as well. So you might be the only one selling something now, and within 2 to 3 months, there might be some other people, and within 1 year, there might be a lot of other people. So timing is a very important factor. Of course, there's always the first move advantage. You can always leverage that. But even like that, you're always on the risk of a big brand with billions and billions of dollars seeing something we usually call the Facebook move, where they come to you and say, okay, you want to sell your idea or your company to us? No? Okay, so we just copy that and we have way more money than you do. That's usually what Meta, Facebook does. So there's always that risk as well. But yeah, I think in the end, it was much more of the feeling and what they wanted to actually sell in contrast to what the numbers were pointing towards. So I would love to say that it was a isolated case, but unfortunately, as we well know, I would say it tends to happen actually with most, specifically now, women stores and women entrepreneurs, where they want to buy and they want to sell what they want, what they like, and products that they like. Especially when you talk about clothing, that tends to be pervasive, where they always buy that which they like. I see no issues in doing that whenever you're just starting out and you have to buy some sort of products. Of course, you buy a lot of different products. Most likely, you're going to buy something that you like. But the issue becomes whenever you keep buying what you like instead of what the market likes. It's an ongoing issue. Or sometimes you can even say the target audience. There's been multiple times where we talk to a brand owner and they either believe that their target audience is different from the one that it actually is, that the data actually shows they're buying from them, or even worse, they want to switch the target audience. So they're selling to X, Y, and Z type of people, and they say, oh, but I don't want to sell to these people. I want to sell to, I don't know, millionaires or whatever. Just because. I mean, there's seldom ever a logical explanation for that. I think there was a old quote that says something like, the best customer is that one who's willing to buy. So there's no such thing. The best audience is that one who's willing to buy. So yeah, it's it. Like, yeah, there is actually that point. So it's always an issue that unfortunately we see now specifically in the female marketplace, whereas that what I want versus the data that I'm willing to ignore. So again, in the beginning, you don't have a lot of data, you don't have a lot of knowledge of the marketplace, so you have to rely, listen a little bit. Whenever the numbers start to come in, and whenever the tendencies, the historical background starts to come in, like deliberately choosing to ignore that and to do something that you like or that it's okay for a hobby. I mean, we always talk about that, the difference between having a monetized hobby. It's okay. I mean, you can buy whatever it is you want. You can curate your own products. You can even like brand yourself as a curator instead of a brand and market yourself as a personal brand. Hey, I'm John, I'm a curator, and people who like my style, like my products, might buy from me. But whenever you want to establish a brand, it's way less about what you like and way more about what sells. So it's always that trade-off whenever you want to have a business instead of a monetized hobby. So I would love to say that it was an isolated case, but unfortunately, we've seen that case. Stories like this happen time and time again. Those are usually the norm. And I think that whenever you tell people that this is the norm, everybody's going to say the same thing, which is, oh no, I'm definitely not going to do this and so forth. But when the time comes, usually the same thing. Oh, I can't stand this product anymore. I can't stand this ad anymore. It doesn't matter if it's selling or not. I just want to switch that. I don't want to be continuously buying this product and so on. So you have to have that tough skin to be willing to ignore what you like whenever you have the data that shows that maybe what you're particularly don't like that much is what the market likes. So it's less about what you want, it's less about what you consider to be good or not, and more about what actually sells. So that's the main difference. You don't have to take big steps. You can go like baby steps. You can ignore tendencies. You can ignore opportunities. Whatever you want to create and scale a business, you don't have that luxury of ignoring numbers, of not taking advantage when you can. So you have to, and a lot of times it is going to be very uncomfortable. I think that's a good a good measurement for you to know how successful you will be, like how uncomfortable you feel with your business from time to time. If you always feel comfortable, if you always are doing what you want, maybe you should analyze again what you're doing, because it will be uncomfortable sometimes. Of course, you don't want to have a business where you're miserable while you're managing the business, but most likely not going to be always rainbows and butterflies ever, as we were talking before. Mhm. Yep. It's the infamous tale of the keep testing story. I think most people they tend to forget what testing means. Whenever you test, you want to reach a result which is favorable to your objectives. There is always that trade-off between testing and investing in what's already working. So even for the peacock strategy, there is always going to be tests involved. Period. Always going to be tests involved. The thing is, you have to be smart with your testing. You can't just be testing for the sake of testing because testing costs a lot of money. And whenever you have that one product or that one like set of products, the one line of product that you know they sell very well, traditionally in the market, you have a cash cow, you have a peacock product. Every dollar that you spend testing is a dollar left that you're investing on something that already works, that it's already a proven concept, it's already a proven product. And the issue is most likely, there are some cases here and there. We do have one client that sells the same product for over years. I think she's been with us for 3 or 4 years now. But those are extreme cases. For most people, I don't want to say it's going to wear off, but from time to time, you have to switch whatever it is that you're selling. Of course, you don't switch whenever you feel like it. You switch when there is a clear indication that the marketplace wants you to switch. But until you reach that point, you should be very aware that every dollar that you spend testing is a dollar left that you spend investing what already works. So you have to have that division of, especially when you have a small business where budget is limited. Like you said, Zara, they can launch a whole new set of products and they can afford, to a certain degree, selling 0 units even because they just put that on sale later on and they at least try and break even. Whenever you're not in that position, which goes also in the category of be very aware of modeling big time brands, you have to really be mindful and be very strategic with your investments. It's one thing to tell different audiences, for example, for the same product. It's one thing to test different pictures of the same product when you know that product already works, because now you're testing, but you're testing on a very limited space of what you know works. But what we see a lot of times is that people have a product or a service or a line of product that's already proven that they know works, that they can somewhat predictably understand the demand for it. But even with that, they want to keep testing new products. And then again, I think we always come to the same point, which is every dollar that you spend testing on things that you don't know, it's removed, subtracted from a dollar that it could be spending in what you already know works. And it's most likely not going to work forever. So there's always that timing issue as well. So you have to be very, like, the less money you have to invest, the more mindful you have to be about your data, about what the market tells you in comparison to what you would like to be true. So there's a lot of more micromanagement when it comes to smaller businesses. Not that big businesses don't rely on them, but big businesses, they have AI to do that for them. They have departments of 300 people that can just daily analyze the market and things like that, understand trends and things like that. There are companies like WGSN who just sell trend forecasts, so you can rely on those, which is very expensive, of course. But whenever you're not in that position, I don't want to say you have to blindly follow the data, but you kind of have to. You have to be willing to give up what you want. Exactly. Because the data is there. I mean, what I always love about mathematics in general is that you don't have to agree with it. It is there. I mean, whenever I was in physics, I had a teacher who said, little Johnny did not believe in gravity. Little Johnny jumped from a building. Little Johnny died not believing in gravity. It is his right to not believe in gravity. He died anyway. He fell to the ground anyway because of gravity. So it's kind of the same thing with businesses. You have the right not to follow data. You have the right to follow what you want. You have the right to follow your passions. A lot of times you're going to fail anyway. So you will fail following your passion, and then you're dying by your own sword. But sometimes you wouldn't have to be dying. You could be prospering, and you chose not to fall. Again, it's okay for a monetized hobby. It's not optimal if you're trying to really build a business. And I think it's something that most starting brands, especially female entrepreneurs, they theoretically understand it and they accept that pretty fast whenever you talk to them, whenever you interview a new client. But when it comes to the time where they have to choose, or when what they would like to be true is not, then the story changes a little bit. So that's when you really, yep. 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 There's a very, go ahead. Exactly. At that point, you're way more patient and way more of a better person than I am. I usually just say, okay, if you want to make a very dumb decision, go ahead. It's your business. Doing it's way more polite with that. Yep. There's actually some pretty interesting stories, specifically about Asians and Koreans in particular in the 50s throughout the 70s, where they would come to America and they would, of course, taste freedom a lot of times for the first time. And they wouldn't even know what it is that they were selling. They could barely pronunciate the name of the product, but they knew that if they put that one particular product for sale, people would buy it. So they would be completely blind to what they liked, what they didn't, because they had a dog chasing their tails, so they had to make it work. They had the bills to pay, they had to provide. So there was like zero feelings involved. It was if I put X, Y, and Z to sell, do they sell? No, so I don't buy them anymore. If I put this to sell for sale, does it sell? Yes, so I buy more of those. It's very binary. So with time, especially with the economic boom of the past 15 years, we're losing that because, especially, I mean, we should mention that with the pandemic. I mean, 2020 there were so many stores being created because a lot of people were buying a lot of things and a lot of people were buying a lot of things that didn't even know why they were buying it. So it was very prosperous. Ad prices were also way cheaper than they are now. So people were started to pay less and less attention to what they should be selling and what the market actually wanted because they were comfortable enough to test whatever it is that they wanted. That was I think that's something we always told clients. Whenever you're selling, whenever you have a very good tide, of course you should try to ride that. You have a very big positive wave. You should try to surf that wave, but you need to know that that wave's going to pass. So you take advantage of it while you can. So if you have something that's selling really well, it's imperative that you take advantage of that. You just completely forget about if you like it, if it would be your dream to sell that or to not sell that, because most likely it's going to pass and you have to take advantage why you can. And a lot of times people just tend to overcomplicate because truthfully, when you talk about the peacock strategy, it is a very simple strategy. And I think a lot of people, they become very protective of it because it is simple. The idea, and once people understand the idea, it is immensely easy for them to understand that pretty much every big brand does that or did that or is only a big brand because of that. But for some reason, they think they will be different. Or they look at a very established brand that relies less, even though most brands still rely on having one main product, and they want to do that. If you want to be like Fashion Nova and you want to mimic what they do now, make sure that you have Fashion Nova money to invest in ads. Make sure you have Fashion Nova money to have inventory. Make sure, are you willing to do that? Are you willing to invest millions of dollars a month in advertising? Because that's not what they did in the beginning. Most brands, if you track them down, I mean, even big brands to these days, they have that one product and they sell more products, but they're known for that one. Yep. 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 Exactly. Yep. Yep. Yeah, the irony of it all. Yep. Yep. Exactly. Yep. If I could wrap it with one sentence, I would probably say something like, it should be your objective to rely continuously less on your opinion and continuously more on conclusions. Not only your opinion, but opinions in general. Because a lot of people say, oh, but I talked to my friend, but I talked to this guy, but I learned from this guru on the internet. Don't rely on opinions. You should, theoretically, you should have zero opinions and 100% conclusions. These conclusions will come from data. You just have to look at it. And whatever you can, not strip away, but at least minimize the amount of decisions that are made based off what your opinion is. Of course, you have people who have educated opinions. If you hire a consultant or something like that, they're going to have educated opinions. But most times, even this opinion is, they are based off data. So minimize your opinions and maximize your conclusions. Look at the data, look at what sells, look at resources online. I mean, we've even put together that GPT that helps them tremendously with market research and things like that. Rely on data and look at the data and make conclusions. Not Don't start with the opinion and then look for things to reaffirm your opinion, some sort of confirmation bias thing. But look at the data and then make your conclusions based off the data that you see. That would be by far one of the most useful things that I could tell to any starting business owner. Sure.